Hi everyone, here I am again with tutor marked assignments. Course code is BABG-171, assignment code ASST TMA July for the session of 2023-24. Total marks for this assignment is 100. There are 3 sections in the assignment. You have to answer all the questions in the section. Assignment 1 contains 2 questions with 500 words each. We have to write the answer in 500 words. And assignment 2 contains 3 questions, 250 words answer. And assignment 3, write a note on the following in about 100 words. These are the short answer type questions. It contains 5 questions. Now the first question is, discuss Ambedkar's idea on nation building. According to Ambedkar, how can people divided into several thousands of castes be a nation? The castes are anti-national in the first place because they bring about separation in social life. They are anti-national also because they generate jealousy and antipathy between caste and caste. Ambedkar 1994. Moreover, there is an Uttarlek among the Hindus of what the sociologists call consciousness of kind. There are no Hindu consciousness of kind. In every Hindu, the consciousness that exists is the consciousness of his caste. That is the reason why the Hindus cannot be said to form a society or a nation. Ambedkar emphasized while Hindus revived Parthivir Chauhan, Rana Pratap, Shivaji in history, the Muslims revived the likes of Muhammad bin Qasim and Aurangzeb. In religion's field, argued he, the Hindus draw their inspiration from the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Gita. The Muslims derive their inspiration from Quran and Hadith. The nation, like the individual, is the outcome of a long past of efforts and sacrifices and devotion. A heroic past, great man glory. These form the social capital upon which a national idea may be founded. To have common glories in the past, a common will in the present to have done great things together, to do the like again. Such are the essential conditions for the making of a people in the custom inheritance of glory, the rigorous to be shared in the future, a like ideal to be realized, to have suffered and rejoiced and hoped together. All these things are worth more than custom houses in common. The frontiers in accordance with strategically ideas, all these can be understood in spite of diversities of race and language. For indeed, suffering in common is a greater bound of union than joy. As regards national memories, maundering are worth more than triumphs, for they impose duties. They demand common effort. At the outset, the realization of the fact that India was not a nation can be called as the first step towards nation building. According to him, the sooner we realize that we are not as yet a nation, we shall realize the necessity of becoming a nation and seriously think of ways and means of realizing the goal. Also, Ambedkar realized that equality, liberty, fraternity, and social justice for every citizen were necessary conditions for building a nation. However, he emphasized that philosophically it may be possible to consider a nation as unit, but sociologically it cannot be regarded as consisting of many classes, and the nation, if it is to be a reality, must watch safe that the freedom of the different classes comprised in it, particularly those who are treated as survival classes. It is in this context Ambedkar considered ex-touchables, Dalits, background classes, Muslims and Hindu women as the most survived groups which needed special attention in the process of nation building. Ambedkar wanted self-representation for the ex-untouchables, Dalits in the government, cabinet, bureaucracy, etc. Defining his importance, Ambedkar opined in his written statement given to the South Borough Committee on Franchise in 1919. Ambedkar went on to the support for representation of ex-touchable, that is Dalits, non-Brahmins, including Muslims, in the administration by nomination rather than competition. He did so because, as enacted by the legislative Ibid. However, according to Ambedkar, administration in modern times involves far more than the scrutiny of statutes for the sake of knowing the regulation of the state, often under the pressure of time or for convenience. A government department is nowadays untrusted with wide powers of rule making. Now, the second question is, what solutions does Ambedkar offer for a casteless society in India? Explain. Baba Sahib believed that caste is one of the biggest obstacles impeding Hindus from excelling as a whole society. His vision was of a nation that is politically as well as socially democratic, and envisioning a casteless society was his cardinal strategy for the same. With the deep entrenchment of caste in the society, there can be no mobilization of the people, and any reforms or new structure based on it shall be predestined to crack. He further expressed contempt for the concept of Chatur Varnya accepted by Arya Samaj and even Mahatma Gandhi, which divided Hindu society into four Varna: Brahmin, cultivating knowledge; Kshatriya, bearing arms and ruling; Vaishya, traders; and Shudras, serving. This system was neither foolproof nor knave-proof, and could lead to the perpetual suffering of the depressed classes. As a member of an untouchable community himself, Ambedkar faced many caste-based discrimination. He compared the caste system with watertight compartments where each person has been given a set place but cannot escape it. Here, the Shudras are assigned a perdurable life of service and oppression. Such social classification we also present in other countries, but the lower classes in Hindu society has been disabled to the hilt. Being deprived of any opportunity ensures that the idea of the relation of the upper three varnas or the Taryavarnikas as the guardian of the Shudras is claimed to be natural, but under rational scrutiny is antithetical to reality. Caste's notion of dividing the society into groups have required them not to violate their own caste by intermarriage and interdining. Ambedkar felt that although interdining can be used to fade away the caste identity, its efficacy shall always be negligible. However, when it comes to the process of intermarriage, Baba Sahib made a sanguine statement of it being another real remedy for the annihilation of caste. The effect of intercaste marriage seeds the feeling of association among people from different caste groups. The blood fusion initializes a series of processes of the progeny, stemming from which the separatist feelings shall vanish. Interdining can play an important role too in encouraging the exchange of different thought processes. Another important aspect that Ambedkar realized in the functioning of this fine-dish caste structure was that it was given a legitimate missing sanction of divine origin, owning to his presence in the various Dharmashastras. He explained that it was pronounced in those Shastras that its provisions are above the ambit of being questioned and examined on grounds of rationality. Any attempt at reasoning is considered a parlous crime equivalent to atheism. Crucially, caste has existed as a notion in the minds of the people and is not tangible. Hence, Ambedkar theorized that the real remedy is to destroy the belief in the sanctity of the Shastras, make every man and woman free from the thraldom of the Shastras, clearness their minds of the pernicious notions founded on the Shastras, and he or she will interdine and intermarry without your telling him or her to do so. He has written and endured extensively against such texts which promote or provide the mandate to divide the people into castes and enable the humans in humanity towards humans. A reform has two immunities, reasons and morality, and the divine origin of the caste denies both. It is therefore realized that destroying caste must go hand in hand with striking at the root of its very purity. A Assignment to answer the following question in about 250 words each. Explain Ambedkar's contribution towards gender equality in India. Manusmriti, the ancient Hindu code book, is the text illustrates on discrimination against women, in which the status of woman granted is to the lowest of humanity. She was treated like animals and slaves by the proprietors of Hindu Dharma. That's why Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was confined with his opinion that unless and until by applying dynamites the Hindu Dharma Shastras are blown up, nothing is going to happen. The Hindu woman tied up with the bondage of superstitions in the name of sanskaras, which they carry till their death. Ambedkar Journal, Moknayak 1920, and Bahistrik Bharat 1927. He tries to show how the gender relations and differences are constructed by Hindu Brahminical order, which make women sure to conform stereotype feminine behavior suited only to a life of domestic and family responsibilities. The Dr. Ambedkar's view on social justice included unity, equality, equal worth to men and women, tolerance, human treatment to all classes and castes, and right to dignity to all citizens. The education property should be distributed equally and emphasized on fraternity and emotional integration. He wanted to remove social injustice through law, morality, public conscience, societal framework which meant to be make women inferior or lower should be eradicated in all possible ways. His teachings and thoughts are useful for all the women of different castes, class and religion. In his last speech in Indian Parliament, we can know his feeling and respect shown towards women. He quoted the famous quotes of Irish patriot Daniel O'Connell as, "No man can be grateful at the cost of his honor. No woman can be grateful at the cost of her chastity. And no nation can be grateful at the cost of liberty." Dr. Ambedkar thought that society must be based on one reason and not on the basis of caste system. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar realized that the gender equality, gender mainstreaming, financing department, freedom are essential aspects of women empowerment. The education, intercaste marriage and interdining are weapons by which one can eradicate caste system. He motivated women and addressed them to participate in struggle against caste prejudices. He started involving women in the struggle for eradication of caste system and upliftment of the underprivileged sections. He came to know that his could not be achieved without that this could not be achieved without liberating the women themselves. A large gathering of women marched in the procession along with men during the Mahat Tank struggle. He encouraged women to organize themselves. Women's conference held at Nagpur on 20th July 1942. He told women to be progressive and abolished traditionalism, ritualism, and customary habits which were detrimental to their progress. Empowerment employs developing and building capacity of individuals, communities to make them part of the mainstream society. Education is the only mean by which societies grow out of oppression to democratic participation and involvement. It is a powerful tool for the empowerment of individuals over the generations. Marginalized section and women in Indian society were denied the opportunity to education. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar put all his efforts to guarantee the educational department without any discrimination to all the citizens of India. Discuss Ambedkar's understanding of untouchability. First, born into a poor, low Mahar caste family on April 14, 1891, in the central provinces now Madhya Pradesh. Baba Sahib Ambedkar had a tough childhood. His family was treated as untouchables. and was subject to socio-economic discrimination. Healing from the untouchable caste of Mahars in Maharashtra, Ambedkar was a social outcast in his early days. Even in his school, he was treated as untouchable. His schoolmates would not eat beside him. His teachers did not touch his copies as he came from a family that was considered unclean by the Orthodox Hindus. Later in life, Ambedkar became the spoken person of the background classes and castes in India, much like African American reformers such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Frederick Douglass in the United States. Ambedkar expounded the importance of a social reform that would abolish caste discrimination and the concept of untouchability in the India. He also joined hands with Gandhi in the Harijan movement, which protested against the social injustices faced by people belonging to background castes in India. Baba Sahib also pointed out that the principal problem of the Indian society was the perennial fight between Buddhism and Brahmanism. Baba Sahib Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi were two of the most prominent personalities who protested against the untouchability in India. Gandhi had published 3 journals to support the underprivileged class, namely Harijan in English, Harijan Bandhu in Gujarati, and Harijan Sevak in Hindi. This led to the Harijan movement of India. Gandhi primarily concentrated on the social and economic stability of people belonging to the untouchable groups and reformed the society's outlook towards them. But all went in vain. Unfortunately, even after about 70 years of independence, India is still trapped under the claws of class and caste discrimination. What is gold exchange standard? How is it different from gold standard? Gold exchange standard is a monetary system under which a country's currency may be converted into bills of exchange drawn on a country whose currency is unconvertible into gold at a stable rate of exchange. A country on the gold exchange standard is thus able to keep its currency at parity with gold without having to maintain as large gold reserve as is required under the gold standard. The gold standard is a fixed monetary regime under which the government's currency is fixed and may be freely converted into gold. It can also refer to a freely competitive monetary system in which gold or bank receipts for gold act as a principal medium of exchange, or to a standard of international trade wherein some or all countries fix their exchange rate and based on the relative gold parity values between individual currencies. The gold standard is a monetary system backed by the value of physical gold coins as well as paper notes backed by or which can be redeemed for gold are used as currency under this system. The gold standards were popular throughout human civilization, often part of a metallical system that also utilized silver. Most of the world's economies have abandoned the gold standard since 1930s and now have free floating fiat currency regimes. The gold standard is a monetary system where a country's currency or paper money has a value directly linked to gold. With the gold standard, countries agree to convert paper money into a fixed amount of gold. A country that uses the gold standard sets a fixed price for gold and buys and sells gold at that price. That fixed price is used to determine the value of the currency. For example, if the US sets the price of gold at dollars of 500 an ounce, the value of the dollar would be 1/500th of an ounce of gold. The gold standard developed a nebulous definition over time but is generally used to describe any commodity based monetary regime that does not rely on an unbacked fiat money or money that is only valuable because of the government forces people to use it. However, there are major differences. Some gold standards only rely on the actual circulation of the physical gold coins and bars or bullion, but others, although the commodities or paper currencies Recent historical systems only granted the ability to convert the national currency into gold, thereby limiting the inflationary and deflationary ability of banks or governments. Now, assignment 3, write a note on the following in about 100 words each. Ambedkar's economic analysis of the caste. Ambedkar, in his Annihilation of Caste, says that caste is not merely a division of labor, it is also a division of laborers. He accepts that any civilized society that needs to develop economically needs division of labor, but caste is the division of labor accompanied by an unnatural division of laborers into water-tight compartments. It is a hierarchy in which the division of laborers is graded one above the other. Ambedkar argues that the caste system and its division of laborers restrict individual aptitudes, because of which India has not progressed economically. Any society that wants to develop economically and socially must give freedom and liberty to individuals to develop their competency and make their own career. But this principle is violated in the caste system, as it appoints tasks to individuals in advance, and tasks are not selected on the basis of trained original capacities, but on social status of the parents. Ambedkar strongly stated that his stratifications of occupations as a result of the caste system is not spontaneous and is positively pernicious. Ambedkar 1936, the caste system's fundamental characteristics is that each caste has fixed economical rights with restrictions on change that induces forced exclusion of one caste from the rights of the other castes. In this context, Ambedkar, putting forth the conditions and requirements of an industrial society, articulates that industry is not static and undergoes rapid and abrupt transformations and change. Given this kind of a dynamic structure, an individual must be free to change his occupation. If the individual does not have the liberty to change his occupation with the change of in circumstances, then he will devoid of his livelihood. But caste system is an institution that does not allow an individual to change his or her occupation, as it is a given and decided by one's birth and caste. In addition, Ambedkar here addresses the issue of poverty, deprivation and unemployment in the Hindu society of India. He says many Hindus are seen starving rather than taking up a new profession because the caste system and its structure disallow people to take up occupations not assigned to their caste. Thus, the caste system, by not permitting readjustment of occupation, has become the direct cause of the acute problem of unemployment in the Indian society. State socialism. State socialism is a political and economical ideology within the socialist movement that advocates state ownership of the means of production. This is intended either as a temporary measure or as a characteristic of socialism in the transition from the capitalist to the socialist mode of production or to a communist society. State socialism was first theorized by Ferdinand Lassalle. It devotes a planned economy controlled by the state in which all industries and natural resources are state owned. Aside from anarchists and other liberation socialists, there was in the past confidence among socialists in the concept of state socialism as being the most effective form of socialism. Some early social democrats in the late 19th century and the early 20th century, such as the Fabians, claimed that British society was already mostly socialist and that the economy was significantly socialist through government-run enterprises created by conservative and liberal governments, which could be run for the interests of the people through their representatives, and such is an argument reinvoked by some socialists in post-war Britain. State socialist declines dictating in the 1970s with stagflation during the 1970s energy crisis, the rise of the neo-liberalism, and later with the fall of state socialist nations in the Eastern Bloc during the revolutions of 1987 and the fall of the Soviet Union. Ambedkar's view on Indian village. Both Ambedkar and Gandhi's conception of a village needs to be understood in the context of a broader aim of rural development. In post colonial modernity, the idea of village has significantly undergone qualitative and quantitative change in indicating a gradual transformation from its traditional roots to modern identity. This change is inevitable and is a socially iterative process. At the individual level, this transformation remains an intuitive process which is evident in both Ambedkar and Gandhi's idea. Ambedkar's view of the knowledge stemmed from his own experience, in which the humiliations he suffered as a child when barbers refused to cut his hair and wayside cafes denied him entrance were only partially accused by the opportunities that an education in Bombay, now Mumbai, provided him. It is not only all surprising that he remarked the love of the intellectual Indian for the village community is of course infinite. If only pathetic, what is the village but a sink of colonism, a den of ignorance, narrow mindedness, and commercialism? Ambedkar's view on social democracy. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar did not belong to the League of Armchair Philosophers but was a man of action. He was a teacher, activist, lawyer, economist, anthropologist, philosopher, and most importantly, leader of minorities and suppressed. He, in his entire lifetime, found for human dignity and self respect of every individual. He was a leader who carried the legacy of positive change for the rights and dues of most marginalized people. Bharat Ratna Baba Sahib was a strong supporter of democracy, but for him, the mere political democracy does not define the contours related to the same, and the same spirit is reflected in our constitution. For him, democracy meant an all rounder development of human soul. In his last speech of Constituent Assembly on November 25, 1949, Ambedkar spoke to work towards a social and not just a political democracy. His apprehensions were clearly visible in his own words. Political democracy can't last unless there lies at the base social democracy. Thus, social democracy occupies a prominent place in the philosophy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. It makes his struggle unique against the historic social ailment of graded inequalities in India. This is what distinguished Dr. B.R. Ambedkar from the rest of the mainstream Indian freedom thinkers and fighters who are struggling primarily for the liberation of the country, political freedom, from the yoke of British Empire. What does then this social democracy actually meant for Ambedkar? For Baba Sahib, it meant a way of life which recognizes liberty, equality, fraternity as the core principles. They form a union of trinity and should not be divorced from each other and ought not to be treated as separate entity. Democracy sans this nitrity is an otis. But these legislations have not altered the agrarian structure sufficiently. Ambedkar conclusively proved with sufficient data that Indian agriculture suffers from small holdings, each holding being highly fragmented. He also proved that small and scattered holdings were mainly responsible for the low agricultural productivity. Evils due to small holdings are many. The cause for small holdings was excessive subdivision and fragmentation, which according to him has to be curbed by consolidation of holdings by raising productivities in agriculture. The fragmentation of holdings renders farmers considerably inefficient. Consolidation of holdings has been designed to reverse fragmentation of land holdings. According to Ambedkar, voluntary exchange can hardly be relied upon by much, but a restricted sale of right of occupancy may be expected to go a good deal. For under it, when survey members are put to auction on account of their being relinquished by the holders or taking in attachment for arrears of assessments, Only those may be allowed to bid in the auction for the sale of right of occupancy whose lands are contiguous to the land hammered out. Okay, this is all for the today. Bye.